I wanted really to start a little bit with looking at traditional theories, and I know that some of you may even write a proposal for their dissertation. So Müller and Turner really looked at skills for project management, what maturity models are there, and what professional bodies actually recommend. Yeah? So if you think about accreditation, they literally did a table and looked at different skills that have been recognized in different professional bodies as essential skills to have. And what they found is the neglect of emotional intelligence, or the emotion in the managerial side. And they literally highlighted on that. They favored a particular model. To show you quickly how it works with a PDF, you can actually switch to it. Yeah, I explain where the model is coming from in a second. They looked at self-awareness. Yeah, this is how you can distinguish between your moods that you may have. For example, this morning I've started doing sport again. Yeah, so I go now running with a triathlon athlete who just showed me that I can't run anymore. So we run around the beach, yeah, and like while she was talking to me, I had issues holding up. Yeah, and I've basically had all day pain and agony in my legs, yeah, so this is literally where it came to. Distinguishing this pain and feeling, yeah, from your general interaction. This is kind of where the self-awareness comes from, yeah, so that you can distinguish what the emotions or feelings from you that are kind of given and that are based situational. So that are kind of out of the situation, because I may not like something. So the pain is not inflicted because you're sitting in front of me. This is kind of the key lesson for me. So very important. Then the next one was emotional resilience, and resilience being here really the capability on consistent performance in a range of situations. And here again the differentiation of letting in on the emotion and maybe stopping. So emotions are very useful. They tell us as well when to stop something. But in some cases, we have to actually find a way of disciplining our emotions enough to actually complete the activities. And so this is really where they came up with retained focus on the course of action or need for results in the face of personal challenge or criticism. A particular bad is if you have a social environment that is counterintuitive or counter what you are trying to achieve, then this has a certain knock-on effect. We look at that in a second as well when we come to the social dynamics, group dynamics, because this is of course where we operate as a project manager. Then we have the intuitiveness, and this is arrived at clear decisions and drives the implementation in the face of incomplete or ambiguous information by using both rational and emotional perceptions. Yeah, and interpersonal sensitivity, actually I should really summarize those because it's a model that we will go into depth in a second. So interpersonal sensitivity, yeah, then influence, motivation, and then conscientiousness. Where is that actually leading us? Back to the slides. So this is really what they realized, and this comes really from three different models that have been adapted. The first one, the ability model. I had actually two students that tested those. They used the International Project Management Association, the European one, to interview project managers that go to a maturity model in a higher performance. So you have to have worked on projects with a certain turnover, they have to have a certain durations and certain challenges, a certain complexity on the project. This is how the framework works. And they interviewed actually those guys on the Congress on how well they are scoring against this ability-based model of emotional intelligence. And that is Meyer and Salvori. And they literally just pointed out that there is a gradual complexity. The first one is already quite challenging. It's kind of like realizing where you are with your emotions. Yeah? So perception, appraisal, and expression of emotions. So there's as well a notion. So for example, if you think about yourself, you may have certain moods, yeah, that you go into the day with. So if you wake up in a cold room, it's again environment specific that you may be cold, yeah, then you express that maybe in emotions. Then you would express the emotions accurately, yeah, but you may actually, what is a good example? I just have two personal ones in mind. Do you have a good example where you are dishonest expression about emotions? Where would we have something like that? Yeah, you could now blame me. Robert, you just told us you are in pain and agony, and you're smiling at us. Yeah, this is not authentic, Robert. Yeah, clearly the pain is not that bad. Yeah, so you could complain about this. Yeah, but actually my general mood is smiling. So yeah, so it's or happiness. Yeah, so this is unfortunate with me. But yeah, so but there are dishonest notions, and it goes deep with humans. Yeah. And with this comes identifying emotions as well in other people. How do we do this? How can we do this?
Facial expressions.
Yeah, we do it with mimic, yeah, and a little bit with gestic as well, yeah, and body language. Yeah. So this is the strongest communication. In some cases, we hear it as well in the voice tone or actually wording. So this is normally how you would see it, and then identifying emotions in own subjective states. This is a little bit what I meant. When you're actually conditioned on something, if it's very windy or if there are certain external influences on you, your emotions or the expressed emotions may actually not reflect what you're really trying to achieve. Yeah. So this is the first one. Then it gets a little bit more complicated. It's emotional facilitation of thinking. So using emotional states to facilitate problem solving or creativity. Yeah. For example, urging your team members, like this is very important for me. Yeah? If we don't achieve this, then our project will fail in the large scale. Yeah. So using emotion to communicate. Yeah, and as well, here it's very important to be sensitive to alternative perspectives. Yeah, so there is the, well, if you want the I, then the recognizing that you yourself interact as a member in the team as well. Yeah, so there's this effect. And with this comes, of course, using emotions to facilitate judgment. This is incredibly difficult to measure, actually. So I would probably stop at that point refinement, because our managers didn't actually hit that blank. Yeah? So if you're aware of that, you're certainly an advantage to the people that we interviewed. Yeah, but what was quite fascinating is, when we come to the next one, understanding emotions and employing emotional knowledge to actually understanding transitions between emotions as well. Yeah? So understanding how you can actually change a general mood to come to a neutral ground, to better negotiate, for example, that you're not going negatively into a potential negotiation in upfront, yeah? So that you actually calm down and that you are at your optimum of emotional calmness, if you want, yeah? Is a very important thing, and can make a huge difference in the decision making later on. And it's as well then at that level where the interpretation of complex feelings comes in, understanding causes and consequences of emotions, and understanding how different emotions are related. And the fourth level, and here you are at the highest point of complexity of skills, is emotional regulation. Yeah? When it's regulation, it's disciplining. Yeah? So you just emotions, we know now from neuroscience, are always there. It's just a question how you let them it sounds very easy when I say it that way, but it's actually not. It's a disciplining exercise that you basically hold within the functionality, that you can still achieve what you are after, that they're not overwhelming you, and create catastrophe. Yeah. So this is a little bit the sense. So the fascinating thing, the conscious side of project managers, the good ones were kind of still at the second level. Third and fourth level, completely subconscious. The project managers. We could show, though, that the ones that were identified as good team manager, as good project manager, working well with people, with contractors, subcontractors, and so, they did it actually up to that level normally. Yeah? So there is a notion that some people have adopted that maybe already. Maybe they have been in an environment, yeah, where this naturally occurred, where emotional intelligence was kind of harvested. But at the moment, this is kind of not really in the remit of project management. Why do I tell this all? Well, now we have that as well. This is actually what we have now. This is from Goldman. This is actually in the ISO standard. Yeah? So in project management ISO standard, we kind of assess our project managers on that basis. Yeah? So self-awareness, self-management, motivation, social awareness. The models, it says mixed models because it's repeating itself. Yeah? So those were the first models that were really developed. Goldman adapted the former one. And then the relationship management is brought in from a different body of knowledge. Yeah, and you have an alternative one on, he liked the list. He differentiated it even further. Here it's just the headaches that I'm really after. So they kind of differentiated it into interpersonal capacity, interpersonal skills, adaptability, yeah, so how you can actually change to situations, how it's required. Yeah, interestingly, problem solving, we'll come back to that in a second. Stress management, yeah, and general mood. So those are the three dominant, dominant models that we actually have, and they come all from psychology, more or less, without an exception. One from social psychology, and we have a little bit a look into that with power, yeah, and conflict. But otherwise, they go as well into the behavioral notions. Yeah. And again, yeah, I've listed you here the different skills that they kind of found particular important or competences really. So you have the same emotional factors again. So the clear commitment to a course of action, challenges, words and deeds, encouraging others, chosen and emotionally authentic behind it. Yeah, you may actually, once you read through it and think about your environment, you may find that actually the leaders that you recognize as a good leader, or sometimes even good manager, or friends, that they're emotional, authentic. This is very important for a human relationship. If it's not emotional or authentic, there's very likely that you develop a disconnect at that point. So other one is interpersonal sensitivity. Here it's about awareness and needs and perceptions, yeah, as well of your team members, yeah, and basically making the space for that. And I have one, okay, this is now already specific to a particular project. It's the self-awareness is the dominant one too. But why did we look at this? You can actually Turner and if I go back, so Müller's and Turner's project looked at different project types, yeah, and I've listed there a few. So at the IT project where you have like a certain emphasis that is more important seen in project managers than others. Then we had organizational change. This is all kinds of mergers and acquisition projects where you have like other ones that are driving, and not really surprising if you look at it there. In organizational change, it's an emphasis, of course, on motivation, showing drive, energy, and so forth. Yeah, and with this, you come basically back to the emotional dimensions. Okay, this was a very quick run. Maybe before we run on, did you have any examples where you have come across something like this? This is often not what we're sensing out for. But have you seen that you were kind of shocked by the emotional expression of maybe your team members or your project manager, or if you did like a group? Actually, you know, what is really impressive is normally student projects, group work, is renowned for an emotional journey. I don't know why, but there is a deep discovery possible in its richest side. And did you have that you ever came to a point where you just wanted to map something out, when you thought it was very naive, and then suddenly there was an emotional reaction that you didn't see coming?
I was crying in my project groups.
Okay, this is quite intense. Can you, where did this come from? Was that?
From you?
No, just a bit. But no, it was. We're doing this project, and she was the architect of the group, and like we set her this strict deadline for when she had to do all the design work, and she only was like a week late. And when we came up, we found out that she just put the buildings in completely the wrong way. So basically, everything she's been doing was just completely wrong.
So this is so you created a little bit of stress. You checked out her stress tolerance, yeah. And then
just wasn't there. Stress management.
Okay, adaptability. She wasn't very flexible when you confronted her that the building is in the wrong place.
Yeah, like when she just looked at her work and we pointed out all the mistakes she made, she just burst out in tears. Okay. She was just a bit of ashamed and for wasting her time.
Okay. Wow, this is quite intense. But then you said, this is brilliant. Here we can come to deep learning, right?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay, but you solved it afterwards, yeah?
Not really.
Did she change groups or?
No, I mean in the end we just gave her smaller tasks. So basically we just decided to do more of her work because it was just not really manageable.
Maybe I should do that before the group exercise again with the emotions in a little bit more detail. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But this can be quite overwhelming, yeah, and it can be so powerful that it has a destructive capability. Yeah. This is just emotion, if you want. Yeah. In reality, this can happen all the time. So. Good, you made a mistake, a major one. Yeah. Okay, building built at the wrong site. I've seen this in Germany in reality. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Wait a minute, I shouldn't start it that way. But for me it was ridiculous, funny, because they had built it on the pavement, where it clearly didn't belong. Yeah, but somebody still must have put the wall there. Yeah? So I was really impressed with this. But for that, we had a bricklayer master, that was a business owner, and he was as well in tears. So couldn't believe that they got it wrong. But quite obvious when you just walked along the street, there was a building on the pavement. Yeah. But okay. Okay, maybe another situation, maybe with a positive outcome. Okay, but you all had an experience like that. Yeah, more or less. Yeah, emotions. It becomes quite visible. Yeah, we sense it as actually we have a sense for that. Yeah, like it has to do with tone, with fluidness of your body language. Yeah, so apparently abrupt movement is seen as as something that is conflicting. Yeah, so that's quite interesting. Yeah. Okay, but have a look. Very powerful model, and we actually rehearsed now kind of the evidence in social psychology with conflict. So the big question really with conflict, and it's old chestnut in psychology, is are we kind of born in a conflicting way? Do we want to challenge everything? Or not? This is a big question. What do you think? Are we more conflicting people, or are we more harmony-seeking people?
Conflicting, we like to kill each other.
Okay. Yeah, I will rather not ask why. Yeah, but is this like? Have you seen that on your children, or is?
Well, naturally, people fight generally over things, and objects, and whatever. But generally, people tend to kill each other. Wars, things like that.
Okay. Okay,
Not
this
really
is probably
been a
on
point
one
in
side
time,
of the spectrum, yeah?
There's not really been one point in time where there's ever been harmony around the world.
Oh, you think here at global scale,
people
yeah?
in general.
So
there's
many
never been-
people put together in masses, harmony
Tend
all
to
together.
kill each
Okay,
other.
okay, yeah. Okay, but this is already fascinating, yeah? So conflict, you see this as a global phenomena. Does somebody think it's the opposite? We are harmony seeking.
Well, no, there's enough people that try to avoid conflict. They'd rather just not say what they're actually thinking just to prevent conflict. Whereas other people always say exactly what they think, and they're a bit more they always look for the confrontation.
Okay, so you have spotted some that are so harmony-seeking, although there is clearly in your mind a conflicting thing in front of them, they kind of just go along with it,
Yeah.
just to avoid conflict. Yeah? Okay, yeah, this is a very deep insight. So we have both, yeah, and those are probably the extremes. Of course, there are many gradings, and we will refine this now. What was fascinating to me in this field, and I haven't really covered it, but by the way, this is a lot adapted from Alan Osborne's PhD. He looked actually at conflict. Can you imagine? Alan, never struck me as a conflicting character. But yeah, anyway, he was really fascinated about it. So we have even like one slide that I've taken from his PhD. I credit this well completely to him. Whilst in the other slides I have often, you can ask me, this comes all from books or literature, of course, but some of the references may be not shown. Yeah? So, but the fascinating thing here for me was that children are naturally harmony seeking. Yeah, even if you give them pretty grim scenarios, if you let them collaborate, do something together, and there's a profit at the end, and it gets handed out unequally, you can see this with all children. If you let them be alone, it doesn't really matter which culture you are in or where on the planet, they will naturally look at it and divide it equally. Yeah, this is still something that fascinates me. With 5 or 6, they get twisted. I don't know why. Some still share, others don't want to share anymore. There's something that changes. Yeah?
It really depends on the background. If they used to be surrounded by conflict, you will get conflict in people. If they're surrounded by people who are not conflict, they will not be.
Yeah. So
it depends on your background, how you grew up, and your parents and your family and your.
Yeah, but I challenge that. I say that even in a very conflicting background, between 2 to 5, well, probably 4, I should be on the safe side there. Yeah? 2 to end of the 4th year, they will share, and 5 upwards, it depends. You're spot on. Yeah? It depends on the environment, what they have seen, if there's a natural imbalance, yeah? So somebody takes always a lot and never shares. Then with 5, they become perceptible to it, and it's true. Yeah? We are affected very much by our environment and how our other people collaborate with us. Yeah? So very powerful. Okay, here's a challenge. I need a volunteer. So you may have seen that before. Please look at the following chart. Say out loud the colors, not the words. So there are words, yeah, in colors, and you just have to go through it in a logic manner and say the colors of the words. Who's brave enough to do it? Who thinks I can do it? It's not that bad. It's a few words. Anybody? No, nobody wants to volunteer. Yeah, don't worry, there's no penalty afterwards. Yeah. Now we are drifting into psychology, and everybody gets a little bit dubious. Yeah. Okay. You want to give it a shot? Very good. Okay. I hope you can see the colors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yellow, blue, orange, black, red. I can't even read that one. I think that's green, purple, yellow, red.
Yeah, but so this was evil, yeah, because I asked you
to say the colour, not the word.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
But okay, does anybody else want to try?
I'll try.
Yeah.
Red. It's so confusing.
Yeah, this is actually orange. Yeah, so it's incredibly hard. The trick is not to read the word, just look at the letter at the first one. But it shows you already we are kind of programmed on it. So we are inherently conflicted all the time. Trying to apply basically our understanding to different problems that you find in the world. And of course, you could argue on this, inherently conflictful life. Yeah? So you said you were more here on that basis. Yeah? So we even kill each other in the world, yeah? And then clearly there's evidence for that. And on the other side, we have maybe harmony-seeking notions, or in the business context still, it's probably more conflicting. Yeah. So let's have a look a little bit and differentiate the conflict in a refined notion. This goes a lot into the psychology. This is actually social psychology, which spins off into behavioral psychology a little bit. And here, what is social conflict? Social conflict is really an important part of human interaction. It's kind of how we socialize ourselves. Yeah, to arrive at a social order, this may be very primitive ones, we come up with examples in a second. We actually do kind of have to confront ourselves on what basis we are dividing. That is the basis of social conflict. Social conflict occurs between and within people, groups, organizations, and nations. Did you ever have a conflict within you? Well, you clearly just did, and you did as well just there with the task, but is this something that happens often? Or is that like a rarity? Are we actually inside quite harmonious? Do we get up like...
The opposite?
It's the opposite. So explore a little bit. What do you mean by that?
Well, for instance, sometimes in the morning you thought, I want to go to the gym, but then the other half says, no, I'm quite comfortable in the bed, so you got like a bit of conflict. So should I go?
Okay, so you have already divided your personality. I'm quite impressed. So there's one element in you saying, we should go to the gym, and the other one is saying like, let's turn another time around in the bed, and sleep a little bit longer. So good example. So most of our day is actually self-conflicting, which is quite interesting. And without social conflict, it's not possible to gain a solution, answer to a problem or question. So if there's just one view for you, then you will run against the wall potentially in a problem. There's no negotiation. That is basically the problem. Well, there is a refinement in that. Where does the social conflict come from? This is very ambiguous in my mind, but nonetheless, this is what the literature will tell you. There is an antecedent conditions. So this is resource scarcity, policy differences, and policies. If you think of a family, what you have said, then a policy is a way of how you're allowed to be unfair to each other. It's very unfortunate, but this is literally how a childhood experiences. If you have all food, you sit around, and one person gets a bigger portion of the favorite meal or of the dessert, then the child will ask, why is this happening? And if that happens repeatedly, then this is an accepted way of, you could even go as far as bullying. I don't think that the child will, maybe, I don't know, maybe you see it after asking. Never mind. There's old chestnut, of course, with this. I just think of this. Resource scarcity. Okay, I'll come to that later. But then you have the affective status. This is stress, tension, anxiety, hostility. And then you have cognitive states. Those have to do with your perception, recognition, and awareness. Then you have conflictful behavior, passive resistance, or overt aggression. And you can probably think of all. The cognitive states is an interesting one. In social psychology, we kind of don't really account for that, if you are cognitively aware or not. We just describe that is what happened, so you respond to it. And you will see that the cognitive state can actually inflict with physical conflicts. So it's quite a powerful one. Okay, so let's have some examples. Where have you come across a conflict? Shall I, each theme is fine. Have you come across one? Don't make it too polarizing, that we have a conflict straight away afterwards. But are you aware of any examples in those categories?
Workplace all the time.
Okay, workplace. Very good. What are you thinking of here?
No, when we're working with the subcontractors, obviously they always have like a different opinion than you do. So I'll say that if I need
what?
Now, if I say that for the job I need 8 painters, then the subcontractor says, I only got 5 for you today. Then I tell him I can't get the job done in that way, so you get a bit of a conflict in that way.
Okay. And then what does he then convince you? He has super painters. It's not the usual normal painter.
Well, I mean, he didn't, so.
All right. Oh, he doesn't have this card in his.
Somewhere else.
Okay. Okay. This is so. This is really on the conflict side, And here we nearly come into the interest. There may be even financial interest behind it. Another example,
Religious?
Yeah. In what way?
People won't work with each other. People literally are killing each other over it.
Okay.
currently.
So on your project or in general, you think now of
Currently.
wars?
On the project.
Okay.
That's
the
that they've been
project.
shut down, so.
Okay. We had that as well in South Africa. We had huge issues. There were religious minorities working in the labor side, and they were bullying each other, and it came actually where we had to bring special forces actually from the police to separate them, and we had to physically remove them. It literally, in some mines near Johannesburg, it actually peaked, and there were stabbings. Yeah? And this is based on belief structures and radicalization, yeah? So creating an enemy picture.
It's been the biggest hold up on some of the projects that I've worked on.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. More practical example, I have a colleague that is a Mormon, and he studied physics, and this was an unintended joke to some of my other colleagues. Because I worked in material science, and I said like, oh, this is really strange because carbon footprinting and all that, you know, like kind of like you start in 1,000 years. So the whole belief structure of that narrative is undermined in that like premises of physics. And he got really angry about this. So and then many people laughed. This didn't really help, and it was really just a naive remark from me. So, but on things like that, you can create tension in the team. Yeah? So be aware of that. Well, what about the personal influences? Yeah?
Some of the projects work, there have been environmental concerns, things like that. I'm quite keen on the environment. And the idea was just to demolish and bulldoze, and that was completely against what I believe.
Okay,
It's
so
actually for
here
against it.
you kind of had actually probably an environmental or political issue. Yeah, but with your personal influence, you wanted to actually create an optimal solution that in their mind was probably compensated on many aspects. Yeah. Okay, well, we had a good selection. Anybody else wants to add anything?
Political influences.
Yeah? Yeah, what do you have?
Yeah, so I used to work for the local council, so it's obviously a daily problem.
Okay, so politics are daily. How would they manifest, or how would you notice those?
I mean, whenever you was opening a tendering process, absolutely everything wasn't following the procedure absolutely transparently and step by step. You know that you had problems.
Okay, so there was intransparency about the process,
No, I mean,
and
the image is that you were always absolutely controlled because of their interests, not just, I mean, not the party that is in the government, local government, sometimes other parties. But, I mean, they weren't supposed to know how you do the work. But sometimes, I mean, you were dealing with companies and information.
okay, so there's a confidentiality issue, but this is a very typical one. Yeah. So what you're saying, we have the same on mega projects in the UK. They are renowned for being very political, and particular if you have a vote going on for a new parliament. Yeah, this is a nightmare to many projects because they know that the new parliament wants to make with these large
Perhaps I
projects.
need a change of the power of during the year that I worked there.
So this is when it becomes very visible. Yeah. So the decisions or political directions that may have like changed like problem solving to one direction may be suddenly opposed or micromanaged. Yeah, and this is of course as well where social conflict becomes kind of randomly or it appears random if you don't understand the underlying politics that actually steer it. Yeah, so quite a tough one. Well, there are different ways about thinking of social conflict. There was a classical view. Conflict is not desirable and should be minimized. And this is probably still, I think, in managerial or companies literature, somehow something that underlines a lot of the literature. Yeah? There's a belief that you organize this rational organization, there's a best answer, you just have to figure out how you do it, and off you go. And conflict has only to give in to this rational machine. Yeah, but in reality, we know this is incredibly difficult. Quite frankly, there's a counter movement. Yeah? But the neoclassical view, and this is still when Alan Osborne was actually doing his PhD, and so he has actually a literature section on this, which is ridiculously funny in my mind. But so here is conflict is undesirable and should not exist. Yeah? I really like that because this comes really out in the literature. There's a lot of people kind of saying like, we haven't really mediated a shared value system, but we come to that later. Yeah? What underlines this? But contemporary views are a lot more open to this. They recognize the need for social conflict, or conflict as itself is inevitable and should be managed effectively, and has as well potential to this. So in a way, it suggests that you, as a project manager, should manage conflict. This is quite hard. Let's have a look at this actually. Normally a conflict comes, or how does a social conflict arise? Social conflict is manifest in a relationship when two or more social entities, people, group, organizations, nations come into contact with one another in attaining their objectives. Their relationship may become incompatible and inconsistent. Yeah, and I mean, is conflict actually that you emotionally don't care about somebody? Where is that on the emotional scale? Is a conflict like we don't care about the other person? Or is it the opposite? Do we care a lot?
do care, because otherwise there wouldn't be a conflict. We just ignore it.
Yeah. So on an emotional level, both being in full agreement and being in conflict, both needs like a relationship that is actually interested in each other. Yeah? Otherwise you have no conflict. You live in a parallel world without having any interaction, quite frankly, a relationship. Yeah? So this is often something that is counterintuitive, but it's important to keep in mind. Yeah? What does it actually mean? Well, it's an inherent attribute of social behavior that is capable of upsetting normal state of community equilibrium within a social system. What does that mean? In communities and social settings, in a group, not even a team, you kind of arrive at the state where you're neutral, where you don't maybe, neutral by the way is different from group to group. Now, this is important to recognize. But the equilibrium is where you don't actually have conflict points. You don't have the confrontation anymore. And a social system would be observable through the term is actually there. The normal state, we are looking here at norms. There are certain expectations of what you would look for, what normal behavior may be like. We have, of course, a huge issue with projects because we are often drawing on a multidisciplinary team that comes from different places, and with that our norms are often established on the project. And there is a lot of conflict on that basis. Yeah. So how does the relationship become inconsistent if there is a normal state? It's not really surprising, of course, that there is, but relationships among social entities may become inconsistent when two or more of them desire similar resource when it's a short supply. So it's a notion that through shortage you may come to a conflict if you want the same thing, have partially exclusive behavior preferences regarding their joint actions, have different attitudes, values, beliefs, and skills. And those themes will repeat a little bit in different scenarios, but we have to have a look at that. So those are really the driving forces behind it. Partially exclusive behavior. Does that make sense? So partially exclusive behavior, can we have an example to each of those? what may be a resource shortage? That doesn't really just mean materiality. That may be, yeah.
People shortage?
Yeah, for example, yeah, or you want feedback from your manager, but the manager is like, oh, I have no time, but 5 minutes later you see him giving feedback to somebody else, and you say, hey, what's going on? Why didn't I get the feedback? Yeah. So there are different results here. Yeah? So it's not just materiality. Deutsch was kind of the setter for Alan's PhD thesis. A conflict exists whenever incompatible activities occur, not really surprising. Then there was a whole raft of literature that looked at that. So process of social interaction involving struggle of claims to resources, power, status, beliefs. So it's very repetitive in that sense. Yeah. Conflict is interactive process manifested in incompatibility, disagreement, or dissonance within or between social entities. And then along the same lines, Bisno and Posner, the aim of the parties in conflict may extend from simply attempting to gain acceptance of a preference or securing a resource advantage to the extremes of injuring or eliminating opponents. Yeah? So we made the full circle there. Back to killing each other. Yeah? And is it always a bad thing? Well, contrary to popular belief, social conflict does not always produce destructive or dysfunctional outcomes, except if you see emotional crisis. Yeah? So if somebody cries on the table, they are probably at the end. Yeah? So you have to read up on the emotional responsiveness. Yeah? There is a notion of then showing empathy and starting at the common ground again that you can build. Yeah? Don't destroy. Yeah? This is just that. So social conflict may actually be extremely beneficial to a social system and may produce constructive and functional outcomes. But again, this is as well a question of arriving at a way of communicating that. Yeah? So this means you are aware of your team members and their responses. So you have to allow time to arrive actually at that, or encourage to arrive at a constructive and functional way of conflict. More research along those lines was really conflict may be functional as well as dysfunctional. So looking here at individual and organizational roots, they brought it really back to the company context or the environment that those actors, individuals or organizations operated in. And again, there was general agreement, a realistic view on conflict that it has productive as well as destructive potentials. But you can see by the ages, and again, Alan Osborne was quite pertinent on this, showed that there was a big disagreement. And if you look at the years, a lot of this psychology was researched in different entities. Some of the research looked actually at families, some looked at politics. Quite interesting. There was one chap that actually studied, I think it's actually Deutsch, who studied the British Parliament. There was a huge question in the British Parliament. It's based on conflict. Yeah? So you confront each other, and then the winning party gets what they want. Whilst many parliaments have actually shifted to a setting where they have to come to a consensus to move anything forward. You would find that in France or Germany, for example. Yeah? And they shifted away from that, so which is quite interesting. And so other ones looked at the family, where social conflict can be very harmful, and others looked actually at the work organizations who looked into companies. Yeah? And this is where one that just looked at business-to-business negotiation. I can't remember who that was, but they showed actually that most of the time conflict is productive because it creates in the final product something that both parties have to bring in kind of the interest of either side, and often has a complementary aspect to it. But this is very disputed nowadays, so be careful with that. So what are functional outcomes of conflict? Organizational decision making may be improved. It's of course, if you have like a richer consideration. not if you are dominating others. Yeah? But alternative solutions to a problem may be found. People may be forced to search for a new approach. Conflict may lead to synergetic solutions to common problems. People may be required to articulate and clarify their positions, and conflict may stimulate innovation, creativity, and growth. So you see as well, in some cases it may not actually have a proactive outcome, but it creates, in terms of product or what you're trying to achieve, but it may generate an environment where you become more knowledgeable about each other and what to look out for. So it can create this emotional or social awareness that can be very powerful. Yeah? Dysfunctional outcomes along those lines, where conflict may cause stress and job burnout, communication between employees may be reduced. Yeah? Or my favorite one, we don't talk to each other anymore. Yeah? I started this the other way around. When I was young, I didn't. It was an odd thing. I didn't really speak till I was 3, and you know, my mom is a psychiatrist. She's as well at university. She was really concerned. She studied human behavior, and normally, when do children start talking? What age is normal? 1.5. The first words at least repeated. But I just didn't speak. Yeah, so they were really concerned about this. And yeah, with 3, we were sitting around the table, yeah, and we were having soup, and I was basically placed on my children's stool at the front of the table, and the soup was served, and I dug in with my spoon, and I burned my mouth, and I shouted out, "Damn it, the soup is taught!" Yeah? And my mom and my dad looked in surprise at me. "Oh my gosh, my son, he can speak!" And then it was, of course, a question. Yeah? It was a question. Though,
if they only knew that you would do that.
Yeah, no.
Hot food every morning to speak.
Yeah, exactly. 3 years like surprise. And yeah, this was exactly the question that they had. But
they didn't know how
son, why did you not speak before? And that was until now, everything has been fine. Yeah? So there's a big lesson to be learned.
You never got provoked before that.
No, it's of course not true. Yeah, it was a joke, but it's a trigger, yeah, of when we actually communicate. So this is important. Yeah, often this is very important to understand. So social conflict is often the emphasis as well to realizing perspectives, yeah, from others that you can accumulate. I hope that makes sense. And yeah. So communication between employees may be reduced. Yeah? A climate of distrust and suspicion can develop. Yeah? So especially in the case when you burn your mouse, you know, with a hot soup. Job satisfaction and performance may be reduced as well. Resistance to change can increase. Organizational commitment and loyalty may be affected. Yeah? So the social and the balance of conflict, not compromising one person, is very important, because literally all the negative trying to kill each other notions are often out of feeling cornered. Yeah? You have to be careful there. So it was in the list before. It can lead to a feeling isolation and wanting to basically break free from it. And that is as well human urge. Yeah? So it's very powerful. Here we go. Alan Osborne discovered this. Do you see this? Yeah? It's, social conflict in construction-related inter-organizational collectivities. It's, yeah. I think it was the first one that asked the British Library to send the hard copy, but it's okay. So here is what he came up with. He looked on one side how performance is actually impacted by conflict intensity. And he found that there's a natural distribution. So a little bit conflict is so if you have little conflict, there's only a little chance that it's actually dysfunctional. So appropriate conflict is quite interesting how he had termed this. As like, so here it's actually at moderate level, the conflict intensity. It's actually kind of neutral. It can go either way. And when it comes to high conflict intensity, it can be dysfunctional outcomes are likely to be had. So the interesting thing is that you have what he found is like only if you allow a moderate level of conflict and intensity, you arrive actually at functional outcomes. This is surprising, right? Are you not impressed by that? I thought this was brilliant. This is cool stuff. Yeah. So okay. So once again, too little conflict. Yeah. You kind of like go along with it. Yeah. You don't arrive at functional outcomes.
It's more questioning.
Yeah.
Rather than conflict.
Yeah, this depends. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so in moderateness, he says this is low. But if it's too low, if you're just like, hey, do you not think we should do that? No. Okay. Then it's not really like leading.
You have to challenge people to get the best outcome sometimes.
Yeah, be careful. Yeah. So what this here kind of pleads for, it's kind of a balance act. Yeah. So the key is really kind of in this moderate level where you keep it constructive. Yeah. Actually, he didn't write that, but he kind of said that he did it with statistics and modeled against his data, but okay. So appropriate conflict is what he actually uses. Yeah? So you have to find a level of being, as you said, challenging enough to come actually to a conflict level that allows you functional outcomes and to perform well. Yeah? Not too much though. Yeah? If it's too much, then we will get into dysfunctional bit. Yeah? Did you see that? That is surprising. Yeah? That's fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. Is it possible to classify a social conflict? Yeah, I mean, he did this actually for us. So this is really what he came up, but you can see we were going back in time. Alan did like reading books, I could tell that. But so we start really off with classification of effective conflict. Yeah? Effective conflict occurs when two or more organizations, while trying to solve problem together, become aware that their feelings and emotions regarding some or all the issues are incompatible. This is where the emotional trickstery comes in, yeah, from the beginning. Yeah, good managers, where they pretend they have a different emotion. They don't on their face express their emotions, what they really feel. Yeah? Politicians are as well renowned for this. Yeah? Actually, they're being even trained on that, yeah? not to give it away with their hands. Yeah? Then conflict of interest occurs when each party sharing the same understanding of the situation prefers a different or somewhat incompatible solution to a problem involving either a distribution of scarce resources between them or a decision to share the work of solving it. Yeah? Then we have conflict of values, we had that already. Occurs when two social entities differ in their values or ideologies on a certain issue. Then we have the cognitive conflict, occurs when two social entities, while trying to solve a problem, become aware that their thought process, perceptions, or judgment policies are incongruent. Oh, I can't say it. Incongruent. Yeah. Okay. And so this is quite a tricky one. Now this may actually not register just when it then comes to the presentation. Yeah. Then goal conflicts occurs when a preferred outcome or an end state of two social entities is inconsistent. And then substantive conflict, so here we have even like something that we can put behind us, occurs when two or more organizational members disagree on their task or content issues. Effective conflict is concerned with the feelings or emotions of the parties involved in a conflict situation, whereas substantive conflict is concerned with the basic issues involved in such situations. Yeah? I hope that makes sense. Retributive conflict occurs when the conflicting parties feel the need for a drawn-out conflict to punish or punish the opponent. Yeah? This is quite drastic, of course. Then misattributed conflict relates to the incorrect assignment of causes, behaviors, parties, or issues to conflict. And then, last but not least, the displaced conflict occurs when the conflicting parties either direct their frustrations or hostilities to social entities who are not involved in the conflict, or argue over secondary and not major issues. You probably know that one, as in English we call call it the white elephant in the room, yeah, so that nobody talks about, but it should be obvious to everyone. Yeah. Okay, so those are the divisions. Where are we time-wise? Shall we have a 10 minutes break now?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions? Okay, 10 minutes break and then we start straight through and jump into power. Good topics today.